Welcome to the next example. In this video, we will look at how to identify traffic to specific fully qualified domain names, FQDNs, for your cluster workloads. Okay. So we have a widget in the dashboard. It's called the unique domains widget, and that's going to give you a list of all the unique domains for all the flows in the cluster. And when we say unique domains, we are referring to flows to external services. Okay, when you look at flows inside the cluster, yes, they are resolved using service names, but we are able to identify those flows by source and destination names of those specific workloads inside the cluster. Okay, but for any flows going to services outside the cluster, we identify those based on domain names because your workloads will have to do a DNS lookup for those services, and based on that we can identify by doing an IP to DNS correlation, we're able to identify the domains for those communication flows. Okay. So you may have instances where, for example, you want to identify all workloads or all flows towards a particular private service. Okay. It could also be the case where you want to identify workloads generating traffic to a public service. Maybe this has to be a love listed in an upstream firewall. And as a result, you may be interested in identifying the workloads that need access to a given public service. And you could even create Calico policies to permit those workloads to communicate with public or private services for that matter using FQDNs. Okay. All right. So next, let's go to the dashboard and look at how we can use this information. Okay. So in the dashboard, if I navigate to the widget that says top values of destination domains, these are the unique values seen for all of the flows in my two clusters. Okay, and as you can see, we have workloads sending traffic to Twilio, sending traffic to Tigera, Google API, etc. Okay. So let's say I'm interested in identifying like all the workloads sending traffic to Twilio. Okay, I can hover over the domain here and click on the plus sign to apply a filter. And if I go further above, that's going to give me the workload sending traffic to Twilio. So I seem to have a workload in the storefront namespace, called microservices 2, and it's sending traffic to Twilio on port ATN 443. Okay, and the destination name aggregator based on the IP address is recorded as a public IP range. Let's say I'm interested in identifying all the IPs to which this FQDN resolved. I can look at the destination IPs further down, and as you can see, this particular FQDN, it seemed to have resolved to quite a few IP addresses over time. Okay, and the duration for this is 4 hours. So it looks like over the course of the last 4 hours, Twilio.com seems to have resolved to kind of many different IP addresses, which is common with SaaS-based services, right? So let's take an example where for some reason, if your firewall is blocking such a connection in the firewall logs, you're going to be able to see the IP address. And if you want to correlate such an IP with the IP addresses to which your workloads were sending traffic, you could use this dashboard, right? So just write a query to filter out that IP address, and then you're going to be able to identify the exact workload and the exact time at which that workload was sending traffic to that IP address. Okay. All right, so let's take another example. So if I go further down, and let's say I'm interested in identifying the workloads. Let's say sending traffic to the Google API here. As I apply a filter, I'm able to identify the workloads doing so over here, and they seem to be sending traffic on port 443. And if I go further above, very similar to what we saw in Twilio, the Google API, over time was resolving to different, IP addresses. Let's say I'm interested in identifying when flows were sent to this particular IP. I can hover over the IP, click on the plus sign. It appears that yeah, over the last 4 hours, I've had a few occurrences of flows going to that particular, IP address, right? Again, charting this is useful when you're troubleshooting issues as these flows go to these respective, IP addresses. Alrighty, so there you have it, a couple of examples to filter out flows going to specific FQDNs. Again, as you're troubleshooting issues in your clusters, it's always a combination of um, the examples we've gone through previously, right? So for example, as you're doing this, you may be interested in looking at whether there have been any bytes in for a given communication flow. If the application team is complaining that they're not able to reach out to a service, you could filter out traffic going towards that service, and then seeing whether, for example, whether there's any deny packets in the cluster, whether there are bytes, how many bytes went in, or rather how many bytes went out, did any bytes come in, right? So it's a combination of tactics that you can use to eventually narrow down or zero in on the issue. All right. Okay, so that's it for this video. I will see you in the next one, and thanks for watching.